dark, scary movie.
Have you ever walked into a Chuck E. Cheese, looked at the animatronics, and said, holy shit, they must be possessed by demons, the devil, or at least some form of a ghost? Well, in Willy's Wonderlands, the animatronics are possessed by demons. What's up, YouTube, and welcome to the Horror Zone with Zero. I'm Zero, your host, and today I have a movie review of Willy's Wonderlands. Now in this video, I'm going to go through the synopsis of Willy's Wonderlands. Then I'm going to talk about the actors and actresses, at least the prominent ones, how I enjoyed the acting, if I enjoyed it. Then I'll get into if I enjoyed the directing and the movie in general. Then I'll talk about some reviews from prominent sites such as Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes, and IMDb. Then at the end of the video, I'll get into my final thoughts and my rating of Willy's Wonderland, so stick around for that. If you do enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. If you want more movie reviews, I've done a bunch recently, so feel free to check those out after this review. Of course, I do mostly horror and horror comedies, anything in that horror genre really, so be on the lookout for those upcoming. So hit that sub button so you don't miss a beat. Without further ado, let's talk about Willy's Wonderlands. Now, I'm going to be reading the synopsis off of IMDb, so let's take a look at this synopsis. A quiet drifter is tricked into a janitorial job at the now condemned Willy's Wonderland. The mundane task suddenly becomes an all-out fight for survival against wave after wave of demonic animatronics. Fists fly, kicks land, titans clash, and only one side will make it out alive. So, first things first, I do need to mention that Willy's Wonderland is a horror comedy. If you go into a horror comedy expecting it to be anything other than a horror comedy, you're probably going to be disappointed. It's kind of like going into a movie like The Hangover and expecting a demon to jump out. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to get scared in The Hangover. Now, I'm not saying horror comedies can't be scary, but this is more on the lighter side. It's a funny horror type movie, so go in with that expectation. So now that we talked about the synopsis, let's get into some of the acting. Now, the main actor, you may have heard of him. His name is Nicolas Cage. Now, if you haven't heard of him, I'm probably going to ask you if you've actually watched any movies recently. Nicolas Cage is a very prominent name in the acting community. He's starred in a bunch of movies, an absolutely phenomenal actor. Some of the movies you may have seen him in are National Treasure, Ghost Rider, Face Off. He even is the voice of one of the Spider-Men in Into the Spider-Verse. Needless to say, Nicolas Cage has been around a very long time, and he's been doing a lot of great acting roles. He's in a lot of prominent movies, and he has a wide genre of movies from action to horror to comedy. He's in it all. Great actor. So he is the main star of the movie. Now, two other actors that I want to mention is Emily Tosa, who plays Liv, another main actor in this movie. She does a fantastic job. So does Nick Cage. I didn't mention that, but Nick Cage and Emily Tosa playing Liv both do a phenomenal job. Nick Cage is playing as the janitor. Now, Emily Tosa, you may not have heard of her, and actually, this is one of her first prominent roles. Some people may not consider this prominent because Willy's Wonderland wasn't widely announced or anything. It wasn't one of those headliner movies that had a bunch of trailers about them, but she did a fantastic job in this movie, and so did Nick Cage. The acting was great, very awesome to go with this movie. The final actress that I want to mention is Beth Grant. She's actually in a lot of movies. She's had a very storied career, and she does a great job in this movie as well. She's in Speed and No Country for Old Men. She plays as the sheriff in this movie, and she does a great job as well. All the acting in this movie was absolutely great. Now, probably not Oscar worthy, not the best of the best, but it was very good and enjoyable. The comedy moments were a great comedy. The serious moments were serious when they needed to be. So this was absolutely fantastic from an acting perspective. Now let's get to the director, Kevin Lewis. You may not have heard of him. He's not a Guillermo del Toro or another Kevin Smith, another prominent director, Christopher Nolan. He actually hasn't directed much, so I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't heard of him, because I hadn't heard of him either before I had to look it up. But the directing was good in this movie. You know what it is. It's a horror comedy. It's actually really making fun of Chuck E. Cheese. It has to be. A janitor goes into this Chuck E. Cheese Willy's Wonderland, and he has to clean. And these animatronics are possessed, and he has to keep fighting them. It's pretty straightforward, but the directing was fantastic, and it was enjoyable to watch. So now let's get into the synopsis. We already talked about the synopsis. The movie is exactly what it sounds like. The janitor, Nicolas Cage, is cleaning up Willy's Wonderland, and animatronics fight him. Now there's other people in the movie who try to save Nicolas Cage. They try to get him out of here, but he is at a lack of money. He needs to make money by doing this janitorial job. So these kids try to go in, they try to save him and destroy the place so they can finally be rid of these demons. But it is a fantastic synopsis for a horror comedy. Everyone thinks those animatronics at Chuck E. Cheese are possessed by demons or creepy as fuck. This movie just brings them to life by being possessed by demons. Now there's a little bit more to the stories, but I don't want to ruin too much. But the story was absolutely great for a horror comedy, so I absolutely loved that aspect. Now let's talk about the ratings from some of the prominent sites. First, I'm going to talk about Rotten Tomatoes because it's on top of my list in my notebook. Critics, you're looking at a 60%. Again, this is as I'm making this video. These ratings can always change based off of more and more reviews coming out. This movie is about a year old, so there still is time for these numbers to change. But as of right now, Rotten Tomatoes, the critics are at a 60%. So right on the borderline between being fresh and being rotten. It's that 60% mark, but that's where it's at right now, 60. The audience on Rotten Tomatoes a little bit better is 68%. So that's actually pretty good. You're in the fresher category of Rotten Tomatoes. Now Metacritic, the critics didn't rate it as favorably. You have a 44 out of 100 on Metacritic. However, the users on Metacritic was a lot more favorable. You have a 7.5 out of 10 from the users on Metacritic. So that's a vast difference from each other on Metacritic. Although the users on Metacritic are closer to that Rotten Tomatoes score. Finally, IMDb. Another very different score. On IMDb, you're looking at a 5.5 stars out of 10. So really, Willy's Wonderland is everywhere in terms of ratings. Me personally, though, I love this movie. I mentioned it earlier. The acting was great, the directing was great, and the story was just on point for a horror comedy. I was laughing, I enjoyed it. It got me involved with the story. So I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. That's right, Willy's Wonderland is an 8 out of 10 in Zero's book. I really recommend this movie, especially if you're a horror comedy fan. You're absolutely going to love it like I did. But let me know in the comment section if you view this movie and what you think of it. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy Nicolas Cage in this movie? I thought he did a fantastic job. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, peace.